I'm going to try to show you some things about today's Republican Party. It's really quite an extraordinary thing. And my 2015 book, written before Trump even became a part of the picture, called What We're Up Against, the destructive force at work in our world and how we can defeat it. Well, I had this premonition that the election of 2016 was going to be a disaster for the country. And I self-published that book. It's the only book of mine that's been self-published. But I was so concerned about what it would mean if the Republican Party were to win that election. I don't remember all my thinking. It had nothing to do with Trump, who hadn't even shown up when I wrote that. The Republican Party is extraordinary in how it consistently acts and speaks in ways that make the world worse. And that's a pretty strong suggestion of there being some kind of a destructive force that has taken possession of it. And I used to feel like I could point to some things that the Republican Party was doing that were decent and maybe constructive even. But for some years now, it has become almost completely consistent that the Republican Party acts in ways that make things worse. That if it wasn't even on this in the picture, things would never be better because of what the Republicans said, and generally they would make things more broken. I mean, on issue after issue, climate change, inequalities of wealth and power, relationship between the races. I mean, it's just completely consistent. It's a very disturbing thing to see that there's something that's creating that consistency. And I say you can see a destructive force, a force of brokenness. Now, if I were to, as I often do as writing a weekly op-ed out here in Trump country, where I ran for Congress under the slogan "Truth for a Change," trying to show them that they've aligned themselves with the force of brokenness. I won't claim that I've moved people. I don't. If I have, it's not visible. But I continually try to show them. And I know that if I were to try to make a picture about that consistency, there's a thought process out here in Trump country, Republican country. It was even before Trump. It's about 2-1 or 70% Republican. That would say, no, you're wrong. The Republican Party is the party of good Christian morality on the issue of abortion, and it is the party of American liberty on the issue of guns. And those are the two issues that I want to take a look at with you, because it shows how deeply, deeply cynical the whole political process in the conservative Republican world has been. They've created two big sets of one-issue voters, one on the issue of abortion, one on the issue of guns, where one-issue voters will say the Republican Party is good because that's the only issue they're really looking at. And it's a great distraction from what the Republican Party is actually doing to them, which is screwing them every chance they get. They're really helping the powers that hold the average American worker, American family down. But those two issues are not only issues that can enlist people's passions. Not every issue can do that. But they are also far removed from where the real action is, which is that the mighty want more power and the rich want more of the nation's wealth. The real power behind the Republican Party doesn't give a damn about abortion, and it doesn't give a damn about guns. But it creates issues and then that are distractions from their genuine plutocratic fascistic agenda, and gathers in political support by exploiting the issues that they've created. Now, I'm not going to say that abortion is not an issue. It does touch on some fundamental things about the sacredness of life and about human sexuality. It's not a random issue. It plugs into things that people get passionate about. So it's a good one for that, but it takes effective propaganda to convince a whole lot of people that the definition of being on the right moral side as a Christian has to do with your position on this somewhat peripheral matter in the great picture of things, about where you don't pay attention to robbing the poor to enrich the rich, which is relevant to Christian virtue. No. You just look at abortion and you think, as long as I'm voting for the party that takes the good Christian position on abortion, I'm being a good Christian. That is what's really going on. Cynical forces are exploiting people's passions with an issue which is a good distraction from what's really going on, and that propaganda can build over time into a potent way of chipping off millions and millions of voters whose interests are contrary to what the Republican Party is doing, but who can be conned into supporting that party on the basis of the issue of abortion that's been inflated into the defining criterion for one's Christian virtue. And then there are guns and the Second Amendment. Guns have an important place in American culture. There are a lot of families that care about guns. I live in country where people in the fall go hunting, and it's a father to son, generation after generation kind of a thing. And there's it would be an issue if what America needed would completely disarm the American people. But even if there are some people who'd like something like that, that was never cards. There's no reason why a reasonable settlement of the issue of guns couldn't be reached. Other democratic societies have reached a much better balance between public safety and the rights of citizens with respect to guns. We probably always would have been somewhat further than some European countries toward the rights of gun owners, but there are all kinds of ways that you could draw the line that would make us not what we are today, which is far and away the bloodbath capital of the world over the issue of guns. So that there are a lot of people who feel victimized by or vicariously just hate to see these school shootings and rock concerts in Las Vegas and malls in El Paso and the whole panoply of things that happen in this country with great frequency that happen elsewhere much more rarely. But we don't come to that solution because the forces on the right that want to get a lot of people all worked up about guns so that they don't pay attention to what's really going on with the party that they're supporting. I lost the thread there. The issue of guns is made into the issue as this is the foundation of all of our rights. The Second Amendment is how we keep all the other freedoms. There's no evidence for that. We have plenty of peer nations that are just as free as we are, who have way more sane gun policies. But if you convince the propagandists convince enough people of this proposition for which there is no evidence, that arming the citizens is essential for maintaining your liberties. All these Second Amendment people who think that they're threatened, that the threat to their liberties is going to come from the government confiscating their weapons. Whereas the force that puts this issue out there falsely as the key to liberty, that is the force that's going to take away their liberties. I mean, that's the force that is in alliance with, say, a Donald Trump, who's already laying out a fascistic state for the future, in which there aren't really public servants, but just his lackeys, in which there is no system of justice. There's just a tool to go after your enemies. That's where we lose our liberties. But they have been persuaded that it's people who want greater balance between the requirements of public safety, a more sane set of values. And they're actually supported by the majority of the American people, but at least so far, the rabid one-issue voters on the issues of guns, and having run for Congress, I know there are people that is all they're going to vote on. They would never vote for somebody like me who thinks that we need a more sane balance between gun rights and the public safety. There's enough of them that the Republican Party gets a lot of strength from having conned those people into thinking that there's a real threat to anything of any importance. And what the Republicans have done on both these issues, that the people that I'm hypothesizing coming back at me saying, no, they're doing the right thing on these two issues. The thing that they're really doing is making these issues ones that will keep Americans at each other's throats indefinitely. The Dobbs decision on abortion has put abortion as the main battlefield, or one of the main battlefields in American politics right now. I'm not going to. I think the Republicans misunderstood the American people on this, but in any event, we are going to have a lot of energy focused on abortion for as far as the eye can see, or at least as far as my eye can see. And on the issue of guns, the decision that this Republican world has put into our Constitution, which is a profound misreading of the Constitution. I'm convinced that what the court has done on gun rights is designed, is contrary to the intent of the framers. It is a stupid, legally stupid decision, but it is a politically adept one because it condemns us to continue to fight over the issue of guns as we get all these mass killings, and there's a constituency that isn't going to just accept that. But then they're going to be in battle with this other constituency that's been persuaded that the Constitution gives them the right to things. The former Chief Justice appointed by Nixon, Warren Burger, said it was an absurd interpretation of the Constitution on gun rights. He didn't think it was serious at all, but that is now the law of the land, thanks to the Republican appointees on this court. It is a way of keeping the American people on both issues at odds with each other. There's a majority that, but a somewhat more tepid majority, except maybe now on abortion, that is not going to accept what the Supreme Court has said on abortion. And so the American people are going to be battling, the likes of Mike McCarthy over the right of a woman to choose what she's going to do about her pregnancy. So, and we're going to keep on fighting over gun rights because the way has been blocked to come to any kind of sane conclusion, at least for now, by the Supreme Court and by the way the Republican Party whips up people. And as long as the Republican Party can set the American people against each other, the American people are disabled from expressing the will of the people in an effective way. It's a divide and conquer strategy. So the Republicans around here would think that the court has done something marvelous, but they're really just feeding the flames of dividing the people against itself, so that the two sides will cancel each other out, creating a vacuum. In the absence of the will of the people, this force gets to call the shots when this was beginning. But liberal America has never been all that good at countering the propagandists on the right. And now we've gone a very far distance, such that it's hard to know how you would get people to open their minds to new understandings. I mean, the understandings that I put out into the world on the issue of abortion is we have a choice between letting people make their own decisions on issues that bear upon religious beliefs and the concept of the sacred, and when does life begin, and things like that on which people disagree. We can let Americans make their own decisions on this as a religious matter, as we do give people the right to follow their own religious bent on other things, where some people do things that other people think will lead to damnation. Or we can have one religious position be imposed on everybody. And I come down on what's important is that everyone is able themselves to live in accordance with their own spiritual understandings. That is in itself the top value here, and that may mean that some people will suffer when they contemplate the choices that other people are making, and will regard that some of what they're doing amounts to murder. But they get to live their life according to their own values. And we all have to deal with a world in which there are things that we do not like to see. That's where I come down on that. With respect to guns, I've just put out that there's no evidence to support that that the rights uh, are necessary to protect our liberties. And the Constitution's a document that doesn't waste words. I mean, it's really economical when it comes to words. And it starts off the Second Amendment saying, well-regulated militia being important to the free society, or whatever it was. They're pretending that isn't even there, that they wasted all those words trying, not saying anything. This is not a well-regulated militia that we got out there with people, like the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys, having rights to bear arms. That's not what our it's just the decisions that have been handed down establishing these rights are legally very unimpressive. They're contorting themselves. The Republicans on this issue on the court have basically just been agents of the Republican Party playing politics and distorting the law and the Constitution and the history. How do you move people on these things that have been instilled over the course of more than a generation? I expect it'll be a years-long process, but I think it's an important one to undergo. People shouldn't get locked into being exploited and fooled and providing their support to something which is really inimical to who they like to think they are and to their own interests. Those are my thoughts. Thank you for watching.